The Velthani ship descended through Earth's atmosphere like a falling cathedral, its crystalline hull catching sunlight and fracturing it into rainbow patterns across the sky. Elena Vasquez stood at the observation deck of the United Nations building, watching humanity's first official contact with an alien species unfold in real time. Her reflection in the bulletproof glass showed a woman who had aged a decade in the past 72 hours since the ship's arrival. "They are beautiful," whispered Dr. Sarah Chen, the xenobiologist standing beside her. "Even their technology has an aesthetic quality we've never seen." Elena nodded, but her diplomat's instincts were screaming warnings. Beautiful things in politics were often the most dangerous. She had spent her career reading people, understanding the subtle language of power dynamics and negotiation. The Velthani ship's elegant descent felt too much like a performance, too calculated in its grace. The ship settled onto the specially prepared landing platform in Central Park with the delicacy of a feather touching water. No sound, no visible propulsion, just impossible physics made manifest. Within minutes, the world's media had surrounded the perimeter, their cameras capturing every moment for the billions watching worldwide. Elena's earpiece crackled with updates from the security team. "Ambassador, we're detecting no weapon signatures, no electromagnetic interference. Their ship appears to be in complete passive mode." She touched her throat. MIC understood. "Remember, we proceed exactly as planned. This is humanity's moment to make a first impression that will echo through history." The ship's hull began to shift, panels sliding away to reveal an opening that seemed to grow rather than open. 3 figures emerged, and Elena felt her breath catch. The Velthani were tall, perhaps 8 feet in height, with elongated limbs that moved with liquid precision. Their skin held an opalescent quality, shifting between pale blues and silvers as they moved. Most striking were their faces, angular and sharp, with large eyes that seemed to hold depths of ancient intelligence. The lead figure carried what appeared to be a staff, though it floated beside them rather than being held. As they approached the designated meeting point, Elena noticed their movements carried an unmistakable quality of superiority, the kind of casual arrogance she had seen in world leaders who believed themselves untouchable. "Ambassador Vasquez," her aide Marcus spoke quietly beside her. "Satellite intelligence confirmed 17 more ships holding position just outside our solar system. The Brazilian team detected similar vessels near Alpha Centauri last month. This isn't first contact. This is an invasion fleet." Elena's training kicked in. Every negotiation began with understanding the other party's true position, and the Velthani had just revealed theirs. They weren't explorers or peaceful visitors. They were conquerors who had done this before. She straightened her jacket and checked her translation device one final time. The Velthani had transmitted basic language protocols upon arrival, displaying concerning familiarity with human communication methods. Either they were remarkably fast learners, or they had been watching humanity for some time. The elevator ride to ground level felt endless. Elena reviewed her strategy, built around 3 core principles that had served her through conflict in the Middle East, trade disputes with China, and nuclear negotiations with North Korea. First, never let them see your true position until you understand theirs. Second, every weakness can become a strength if properly leveraged. Third, the most powerful weapon in any negotiation is a willingness to walk away. Central Park had been transformed into a diplomatic venue overnight. A simple table and chairs sat in a circle of perfect grass, surrounded by a carefully calculated distance of security personnel, media, and observation posts. The Velthani delegation approached with that same fluid grace, and Elena found herself studying their body language, searching for tells that might reveal their true intentions. The lead Velthani spoke first, their voice carrying musical tones that the translation device rendered into crisp English. "I am Zeva, voice of the Velthani collective. We come to welcome Earth into the greater community of civilized worlds." Elena smiled, the expression carefully calculated to appear warm while revealing nothing. "I am Elena Vasquez, representing the United Nations of Earth. We're honored by your visit and eager to learn about your civilization." Zephyr's large eyes studied her with uncomfortable intensity. "Your species has reached sufficient technological development to warrant integration. We have observed your progress and find you adequate for our purposes." The word integration sent cold warnings through Elena's mind. Not partnership, not alliance, not cooperation. Integration suggested absorption, the dissolution of one entity into another. She maintained her diplomatic smile, while her mind raced through implications. "We appreciate your interest in O's development," she replied carefully. "Perhaps you could tell us more about this greater community you mentioned? We're always eager to learn from more experienced civilizations." Zethvar gestured, and the floating star projected a holographic display showing a three-dimensional map of local space. Dozens of star systems were marked with Velthani symbols, connected by flowing lines that suggested trade routes or communication networks. 4 to 7 worlds now contribute to Velthani prosperity, Zethvar explained. Each species brings unique value through their integration. Your world shows particular promise in certain areas. Elena leaned forward slightly, projecting interest while filing away every detail. "What areas specifically? We'd want to understand how we might contribute effectively." "Your species demonstrates unusual creativity and adaptability. These traits, properly directed, will serve the collective well. Your integration will begin with the transfer of governmental authority to Velthani administration, followed by population assessment and resource allocation." The words hit Elena like physical blows, but her expression never changed. Around the clearing, she could sense the tension radiating from her security team, from the watching diplomats, from the media crews broadcasting to a world that was about to learn they weren't meeting fellow explorers. They were meeting their would-be masters. Elena nodded thoughtfully, as if considering a reasonable business proposal. "That's certainly an interesting framework. Zethvar, I wonder if we might discuss the specific terms of this integration. My people will want to understand the details before making such a significant decision." Zephyr's expression shifted slightly, perhaps surprised at her calm reaction. "Terms are not negotiated. Integration follows established protocols developed across centuries of successful expansion. Your compliance ensures minimal disruption to your population." Elena smiled again, this time allowing a hint of steel to enter her voice. "I appreciate your experience, but I think you may have misunderstood something fundamental about humanity." She stood, her movement drawing the attention of every camera, every observer, every person watching around the world. "We don't get integrated. We negotiate." The silence stretched between Elena and Zethvar like a taut wire ready to snap. Around the clearing, Elena could feel the collective holding of breath from security teams, diplomats, and media personnel who had just witnessed humanity's first defiant moment in interstellar politics. Zephyr's opalescent skin shifted toward deeper blue hues, what Elena's briefing materials had identified as a possible indication of confusion or surprise among their species. The alien's large eyes studied her with renewed intensity, as if seeing her clearly for the first time. "You misunderstand the nature of this encounter," Zethvar said, their musical voice carrying new harmonics that the translator rendered as cold authority. "This is not a negotiation between equals. We are offering you the opportunity to join the collective peacefully. The alternative is considerably less pleasant." Elena remained standing, her posture relaxed but her mind cataloging every micro-expression, every shift in the alien's demeanor. Years of high-stakes diplomacy had taught her that the most dangerous moments often came disguised as simple misunderstandings. "I understand perfectly," she replied, her voice carrying across the clearing with clear conviction. "You've conquered 4 to 7 worlds and expect Earth to be number 48. But here's what you might not have learned in your observations of our species. We've been practicing saying no to would-be conquerors for thousands of years." She gestured toward the United Nations building behind them. "That building exists because we learned to turn our greatest weakness, our tendency to fight each other, into our greatest strength. We argue, we disagree, we sometimes fail completely. But we do it together, and we do it on our own terms." Dr. Chen stepped forward from the observation group, her scientific training overriding diplomatic protocol. "Zethvar, perhaps we could find common ground. Your technology clearly surpasses ours in many areas. Surely there are ways our civilizations could benefit each other without integration." Zephyr's attention shifted to Dr. Chen, and Elena noticed the alien's floating star began to emit a soft, pulsing light. "Your scientific curiosity is noted and will be valuable to the collective. However, individual desires become irrelevant once proper administration is established." Elena felt a chill at the casual dismissal of individual will, but she also sensed an opportunity. You mentioned our creativity and adaptability as valuable traits. Have you considered that forced integration might diminish exactly the qualities you find useful? Previous integrations have shown that initial resistance fades once populations understand the benefits of collective membership, Zethvar replied. Improved longevity, elimination of conflict, optimal resource distribution. Your species will find contentment in purpose. Marcus stepped closer to Elena, his voice barely audible. Satellite tracking shows the 17 ships have moved closer. They are now positioned at the edge of our lunar orbit. Elena nodded almost imperceptibly, then looked directly into Zephyr's large eyes. Before we continue, I think there's something you should understand about human psychology. We have a concept called the Alamo. It refers to a battle where a small group of defenders chose certain death rather than surrender to a vastly superior force. She began walking slowly around the table, her movement forcing Zephyr to track her while she continued speaking. They lost that battle completely. Every single defender died, but their choice to fight, their refusal to accept inevitable defeat, became a rallying cry that ultimately led to victory for their cause. Inefficient, Zethvar observed. Such waste of resources serves no logical purpose. Exactly. Elena's voice carried sudden energy, as if Zephyr had made her point perfectly. We're magnificently inefficient. We fight losing battle for principles. We sacrifice practical advantages for abstract ideals. We choose difficult paths when easy ones are available. She stopped walking and faced the alien directly. Now, you've observed our species, but have you truly understood what you're trying to integrate? Because if you force us into your collective, you won't be gaining creative, adaptable humans. You'll be trying to manage 7 billion individuals who would rather die fighting than live peacefully under someone else's terms. Zephyr's skin pattern shifted again, cycling through colors Elena's briefing materials hadn't mentioned. Your resistance will be temporary. Integration protocols include adjustment periods for psychological adaptation. Dr. Chen cleared her throat. May I ask about the other 4 to 7 species? How did their integration processes proceed? Efficiently, Zephyr replied. Most species require 3 to 5 standard cycles for complete adaptation. Some needed additional measures of compliance, but all eventually achieve harmonious integration. Elena felt pieces clicking together in her mind. Additional measures. You mean you broke them? We provided necessary guidance for species that struggle with a transition from independence to collective membership. The diplomatic language couldn't disguise the underlying truth, and Elena saw her opening. Zephyr, I want to make you an offer. Not a surrender, not a capitulation, but a genuine proposal that could benefit both our peoples. You are not in a position to make offers. Actually, I think I am. Elena smiled, and this time it was genuine, filled with the confidence of someone who had just realized they held better cards than anyone suspected. Because you need us intact. You need our creativity and adaptability, which means you need us to be fundamentally human. But here's what you haven't grasped yet. Those qualities don't exist in spite of our independence. They exist because of it. She gestured toward the sky, where invisible ships waited in threatening positions. You could destroy us, certainly. Your technology makes that clear. But destroyed humans won't contribute to your collective. Broken humans won't display the traits you value. You need us to be who we are, which means you need us to choose to work with you. Zephyr remained silent for a long moment, their large eyes never leaving Elena's face. When they spoke, their voice carried new undertones a translator struggled to render. What do you propose? Elena felt the weight of her species' future settling on her shoulders, but also the electric thrill of a negotiation shifting in an unexpected direction. Partnership, not integration. Earth remains independently governed, but we establish formal diplomatic and trade relationships with the collective. We share our creativity and adaptability through voluntary exchange, not forced compliance. Unacceptable. The collective does not make partnerships with inferior civilizations. Then let me ask you this, Elena said, her voice dropping to conversational levels that somehow carried more authority than shouting. In your 4 to 7 successful integrations, how many species have ever made you a counteroffer? Zephyr's silence stretched longer this time. How many have ever said no? The alien skin patterns shifted through rapid cycles of color, and Elena realized she had just asked a question that changed everything. The revelation hung in the air between them like a charged particle, crackling with implications that Elena could see racing through Zephyr's large eyes. In that moment of silence, she understood that humanity had just presented the Velthani with something they had never encountered in centuries of expansion, genuine resistance backed by logical alternatives. None, Zephyr finally admitted, their musical voice carrying frequencies a translator rendered as reluctant respect. No species has refused integration. No species has proposed alternatives. Elena felt her heart racing, but kept her expression carefully neutral. That's what I thought. Which means you're facing an unprecedented situation. Your integration protocols weren't designed for a species that says no and means it. Dr. Chen stepped forward again, her scientific mind clearly working through the implications. Zephyr, if I may ask, what happened to the creativity and adaptability of the other 4 to 7 species after integration? The alien's attention shifted to Dr. Chen, and Elena noticed a subtle change in their posture, a slight stiffening that suggested discomfort with the question. They contributed their unique qualities to collective advancement. All species find purpose within the greater structure. That's not what I asked. Dr. Chen pressed gently. Do they still display the same levels of innovation and creative problem-solving they showed before integration? Zephyr's silence was answer enough. Elena seized the moment. They don't, do they? The very qualities that made them valuable to you disappeared once they were forced into your system. You've been collecting civilizations, but you've been losing the essence of what made them worth collecting in the first place. Marcus appeared at Elena's shoulder, his expression grim. Ambassador, I'm receiving reports from observatories worldwide. The 17 ships have begun some kind of formation pattern. Our military advisors are recommending immediate escalation to Defcon 2. Elena's mind raced through scenarios, but she kept her voice steady. Tell them to hold position. No escalation without my direct order. She turned back to Zephyr. Your fleet is positioning for attack. That seems inconsistent with a diplomatic mission. The fleet maintains readiness for any necessary action, Zephyr replied. Your unusual resistance requires additional considerations. Oh, Elena said, allowing steel to enter her voice, it demonstrates exactly why force integration won't work with humanity. You position weapons because you expect us to surrender when threatened. But threatening humans doesn't make us compliant. It makes us dangerous. She began walking again, this time toward the edge of the clearing where media crews were capturing every word for global broadcast. Right now, 7 billion people are watching this conversation. They are seeing aliens offer to make them more peaceful, more content, more purposeful. And do you know what they are thinking? Elena stopped and looked directly into the nearest camera, speaking to her own species as much as the Zephyr. They are thinking about every conqueror who ever promised them peace in exchange for freedom. Every empire that offered stability in return for independence. Every dictator who claimed to know better than they did about how to live their lives. She turned back to Zephyr. We've heard this offer before, and we've seen where it leads. The difference is that now we have the power to say no on a species level. Zephyr's skin patterns shifted through rapid cycles, and Elena realized the alien was experiencing something unprecedented in their experience. Your resistance is illogical. Integration offers demonstrable benefits. Extended lifespans, elimination of conflict, optimal resource allocation. Why do you refuse improvement? Dr. Chen spoke up, her voice carrying the patient tone of a teacher explaining a fundamental concept. Because improvement forced upon us isn't improvement at all, it's replacement. If you change us so fundamentally that we're no longer recognizably human, then you haven't improved humanity. You've eliminated it and substituted something else. The emotional attachment to inefficient individuality is a common initial reaction, Zephyr replied, but Elena detected uncertainty in their harmonics. Previous species have overcome such limitations. Have they? Elena challenged. Or have you simply eliminated the parts of them that wouldn't comply? When you say they overcame their limitations, what you really mean is they stopped being who they were. Marcus touched his earpiece, then leaned close to Elena. Global response is unanimous. Every major government, every military commander, every civilian leader is saying the same thing. No integration, no surrender. The Pope just issued a statement calling resistance to forced assimilation a moral imperative. Elena smiled, feeling the weight of her species collective were behind her words. Zephyr, I want you to understand something. You're not negotiating with a government or military or even a planet. You're negotiating with an idea, the idea that conscious beings have the right to choose their own destiny, even if that destiny includes struggle, conflict, and inefficiency. Ideas cannot resist integration protocols. Can't they? Elena's voice carried the confidence of someone playing their strongest card. Your protocols depend on the target population eventually accepting collective membership as preferable to their previous existence. But what happens when the population finds the very concept of integration morally unacceptable? She gestured toward the media crews, toward the crowds gathering beyond the security perimeter, toward the world watching this conversation. You're not just trying to integrate Earth. You're trying to integrate the human concept of freedom itself. And ideas, Zephyr, are remarkably resistant to external control. Zephyr was quiet for a long moment, their large eyes studying Elena with what she was beginning to recognize as genuine confusion. Your proposal for partnership. Explain its parameters. Elena felt the shift in the conversation's momentum, the moment when a negotiation moves from positions to possibilities. Independent governance for Earth, with formal diplomatic relations between humanity and the collective, technology and knowledge exchange on voluntary terms, cultural and scientific cooperation based on mutual benefit rather than absorption. And in return, you get what you actually wanted in the first place, access to human creativity and adaptability, but in their natural state rather than their integrated form. You get partners who choose to work with you rather than subject who comply because they have no choice. Dr. Chen added, and you get something you've never had before, a species that can offer you genuine innovation because they are not constrained by collective thinking patterns. Zephyr's skin patterns began cycling through colors Elena hadn't seen before, complex gradations that suggested intense internal processing. The collective has never established partnerships with non-integrated species. The concept has no precedent. Then we're offering you something unprecedented, Elena replied. The opportunity to discover what voluntary cooperation can achieve compared to forced compliance. The alien fell silent again, and Elena realized they had reached a critical moment. Everything hinged on whether the Velthani could conceive of relationships based on choice rather than domination. Finally, Zephyr spoke. This proposal requires consultation with the collective. Such deviation from established protocols demand highest-level authorization. Elena nodded. How long do you need? Standard consultation procedures require extensive deliberation, perhaps several of your months. Then I suggest we establish some ground rules for the interim period. The negotiation had evolved into something neither side had anticipated. What began as a routine conquest announcement had transformed into uncharted diplomatic territory, and Elena could see the psychological strain of the unprecedented situation affecting everyone involved. Ground rules, Zephyr repeated, their harmonics carrying undertones Elena's translator was struggling to interpret. You speak as if we are equals in this arrangement. Today we are, Elena replied with quiet conviction. You have superior technology and military force. We have something you need but can't take by force, the essence of what makes us valuable to you. That creates a balance neither of us expected. Dr. Chen had been quietly consulting with the scientific team, and now she approached with a tablet displaying complex data visualizations. Zephyr, our anthropologists, have been analyzing the cultural patterns of your 4 to 7 integrated species based on the information you shared. We're seeing a consistent trend. She turned the tablet toward the alien, showing comparative graphs and statistical analyses. In every case, measurable innovation and creative output declined dramatically within 2 generations of integration. The species became efficient contributors to collective goals, but they stopped generating genuinely new ideas. Zephyr studied the data with obvious interest. These metrics were not previously compiled in this format. Because you were measuring success by compliance and productivity, Dr. Chen explained. But if the goal is accessing our creativity and adaptability, those aren't the right metrics. You need to measure innovation rate, breakthrough discoveries, paradigm shifts, the kinds of developments that only emerge from truly independent thinking. Elena watched ZFY process this information and realized they were witnessing something extraordinary, a civilization questioning its own fundamental assumptions for the first time in centuries. Marcus appeared at Elena's side with another update. The global response is solidifying. Military commanders from every major nation are coordinating defensive strategies, but they are also requesting diplomatic guidance. Everyone understands that this conversation determines whether we fight or find another path. Elena nodded, then addressed Zephyr directly. While you're consulting with the collective, we need agreements about how this interim period will function. First, your fleet maintains its current position, no closer to Earth, no threatening maneuvers. Second, we establish formal communication protocols between your representatives and ours. Third, we begin small-scale voluntary exchanges to demonstrate how partnership might work. You continue to speak as if you have leverage in these negotiations, Zephyr observed. Don't we? Elena's question carried the weight of 7 billion people behind it. You could destroy us, but then you lose everything you came here to gain. You could try force integration, but you'll discover that breaking human spirits eliminates the very qualities you value. Your only path to getting what you actually want is through voluntary cooperation. She gestured toward the crowds gathering beyond the security perimeter, where thousands of people had come to witness history. Look at them, Zephyr. They know they're outgunned, outmatched, facing technology beyond their comprehension. But they are not afraid. They are angry. They are angry at the presumption that someone else knows better than they do how to live their lives. Anger is inefficient. It leads to poor decision-making and suboptimal outcomes. Dr. Chen laughed, a sound that seemed to surprise Eva. That's exactly the kind of thinking that eliminates creativity. Anger drives innovation when channeled properly. Dissatisfaction creates the motivation to find better solutions. The emotional responses you consider inefficient are actually the engine of adaptive advancement. Elena seized on Dr. Chen's insight. That's a fundamental flaw in your integration model. You optimize for efficiency and compliance, but breakthrough innovations come from dissatisfaction, rebellion, and the refusal to accept that current solutions are adequate. Zephyr's skin patterns began cycling through increasingly complex combinations of color and luminosity. The collective has achieved technological advancement through systematic optimization and coordinated effort. Has it? Elena challenged. Or has it achieved technological refinement? When was the last time the collective developed something genuinely revolutionary rather than incrementally improved? The silence that followed stretched uncomfortably long, and Elena realized they had just identified the core issue. The Velthani collective had become efficient at using and improving existing technologies, but had lost the capacity for fundamental breakthroughs. This is why you need us intact, she continued. Not as integrated components, but as independent agents capable of the kind of chaotic, inefficient, revolutionary thinking that creates genuine innovation. Marcus stepped forward with another communication device. Ambassador, I'm receiving priority messages from heads of state worldwide. They are requesting a unified response framework. Elena took the device and quickly scanned the messages. World leaders were offering everything from military cooperation to scientific exchange programs, but the underlying message was consistent. Humanity would negotiate as a unified species, or it would resist as one. She looked up at Zephyr. This is unprecedented for us too. Humanity has never spoken with one voice before, never faced a challenge that required species-level unity. But facing the prospect of losing our independence has created exactly the kind of revolutionary response you've never encountered. Your unity could be problematic for integration protocols. Exactly, because integration requires breaking down existing social structures and replacing them with collective frameworks. But instead of fragmenting under pressure, we're consolidating. You're not facing scattered tribes or competing nations anymore. You're facing a unified human response. Dr. Chen added, and that unity is itself an innovation. We've never achieved this level of global coordination before, but the threat to our fundamental humanity has triggered new forms of cooperation. Elena could see Zephyr processing these implications, weighing them against centuries of successful conquest. Your proposal for interim ground rules. What specific voluntary exchanges do you envision? Scientific collaboration on projects of mutual interest, Elena replied. Cultural exchange programs where both species can learn from each other. Technology is sharing that benefits both civilizations without requiring political subordination. Small-scale experiments in cooperation that could demonstrate the value of partnership over integration. And if these experiments prove unsuccessful, Elena met Zephyr's gaze directly. Then we'll have learned something valuable about the possibility of peaceful coexistence between our species. But if they succeed, you'll have discovered something unprecedented. What conscious beings can achieve when they choose to work together rather than being forced to comply. Zephyr's floating staff pulsed with complex patterns of light, and Elena realized the alien was communicating with their fleet or possibly the collective itself. When the patterns ceased, Zephyr spoke with new harmonics that carried unmistakable uncertainty. These concepts require extensive analysis. The collective has no framework for evaluating voluntary partnerships with non-integrated species. Then you'll have to develop one, Elena said, her voice carrying the steady confidence of someone who has realized they are writing history. Just like we're having to develop frameworks for negotiating with a spacefaring civilization that could reshape our entire future. She smiled, the expression carrying genuine warmth. Welcome to the messy, inefficient, revolutionary process of creating something that has never existed before. 3 months later, Elena stood in the same spot in Central Park, but everything had changed. The Velfani ship had been joined by a smaller diplomatic vessel, and what had begun as a conquest attempt had evolved into the most complex negotiation in human history. Zedvar approached across the grass, but their movements now carried a different quality, less imperial certainty, more collaborative purpose. The alien had spent weeks in consultation with the collective, and Elena could see that the experience had fundamentally altered their understanding of their own civilization. Ambassador Vasquez, Zephyr said, their harmonics now familiar to Elena after months of daily conversations. The collective has reached unprecedented conclusions. Dr. Chen and Marcus flanked Elena as she faced the alien representative. Behind them, a new structure had been built, a permanent diplomatic facility designed jointly by human and Velfani architects, its hybrid aesthetics representing the experimental partnership taking shape between their species. "We're ready to hear the collective's decision," Elena replied, though she already suspected what that decision would be. The past 3 months of voluntary exchanges had demonstrated something neither species had expected. The experimental partnerships have produced results that challenge fundamental assumptions about civilization advancement. Zephyr began. Human scientists working with collective researchers have generated innovations at rates exceeding previous baselines by unprecedented margins. Dr. Chen smiled. The fusion of our chaotic creativity with your systematic methodology has been remarkably productive. Neither approach alone achieves what they accomplish together. Elena had watched this development with fascination. Human researchers brought questions and approaches that Velfani scientists had never considered, while Velfani methodology provided frameworks for developing human insights into practical applications. The collaboration had produced breakthroughs in energy generation, medical technology, and space travel that neither species could have achieved independently. More significantly, Zephyr continued, the partnership model has begun generating interest among previously integrated species within the collective. This was a development Elena had hoped for but hadn't dared expect. They want to renegotiate their relationships. 17 integrated species have requested evaluation for transition to partnership status. The collective faces a situation without precedent, member civilizations questioning the fundamental structure of their relationship with us. Marcus stepped forward with his ever-present communication device. We've been monitoring similar requests from species that aren't part of the collective yet. Word is spreading through local space that there's an alternative to integration. Elena felt the weight of unintended consequences settling on her shoulders. Zephyr, we didn't set out to destabilize your civilization. We were just trying to preserve our own. You have accomplished something far more significant, Zephyr replied, their skin patterns cycling through what Elena had learned to recognize as deep contemplation. You have demonstrated that the collective's expansion model was fundamentally flawed. We optimized for efficiency and compliance, but we eliminated the source of genuine advancement. Dr. Chen consulted her tablet, displaying data accumulated over the months of collaboration. The innovation metrics are remarkable. Joint human Velfani projects are generating breakthrough discoveries at rates we've never seen. But more importantly, the Velthani researchers working with us are rediscovering creative approaches they thought they had lost. The integration process doesn't just absorb other species, Elena realized. It diminishes the collective itself by eliminating the diversity of thought that drives real progress. Zephyr's harmonics carried what Elena had learned to interpret as profound agreement. The collective has been consuming civilizations rather than partnering with them. Each integration made us larger but not stronger, more extensive but not more capable. Elena looked toward the diplomatic facility where human and Velthani staff worked side by side on projects that would have been impossible for either species alone. What does a collective plan to do with this realization? We are implementing fundamental changes to our expansion protocols, Zephyr announced. Future contact with civilizations will follow the partnership model developed with humanity. Existing integrated species will be offered transition opportunities to partnership status if they choose. Marcus looked up from his communication device. Ambassador, I'm receiving confirmation from observatories worldwide. The 17 ships that were positioned threateningly around Earth have been joined by vessels from multiple star systems. But they are not in attack formations, they are in what appears to be diplomatic configurations. Elena felt a chill of recognition. Representatives from other species. Delegation from civilizations that want to explore partnership alternatives to collective integration, Zephyr confirmed. Your refusal to surrender has created ripple effects throughout local space. Species that accepted integration centuries ago are remembering what independence meant to them. Dr. Chen was studying her tablet with obvious excitement. The collaborative research projects have expanded beyond Velthani partnerships. We're seeing multi-species scientific initiatives emerging across dozens of star systems. The innovation rates are exponentially higher than anything achieved through integration. Elena realized they had stumbled into something far larger than Earth survival. We've accidentally started a revolution. Not a revolution, Zephyr corrected, their harmonics carrying what sounded like satisfaction. An evolution. The collective is discovering that true advancement comes not from absorbing other civilizations, but from learning how to work with them while preserving what makes them unique. Elena looked up at the sky, where invisible ships from dozens of worlds were gathering to negotiate new forms of interstellar cooperation. What started as humanity's refusal to be conquered has become a fundamental reimagining of how civilizations can relate to each other. Your species demonstrated something the collective had forgotten, Zephyr said. That conscious beings are most valuable when they remain true to their essential nature. Integration preserved the useful aspect of other species while destroying the source of their usefulness. Marcus stepped closer to Elena. Ambassador, we're receiving formal requests for diplomatic meetings from 43 different species. Earth has accidentally become the center of interstellar diplomacy. Elena laughed, the sound carrying months of tension finally releasing. We set out to avoid being absorbed by Galactic Empire, and instead we become the catalyst for transforming that empire into something unprecedented. A confederation of independent partners rather than an empire of integrated subjects, Dr. Chen observed. Each species contributing their unique perspectives while maintaining their fundamental identity. Zephyr's skin pattern shifted to what Elena had learned it indicated deep satisfaction. The humans have taught the collective something we thought we already understood, that diversity of thought and approach is the engine of genuine advancement. Integration eliminated that diversity in favor of efficiency. Elena extended her hand towards Zephyr in the human gesture of partnership that had become symbolic of the new relationship between their species. So the alien diplomats who came to negotiate our surrender are leaving with our terms after all. Zephyr touched Elena's hand with their elongated fingers, the gesture representing a bridge between civilizations learning to value difference rather than eliminate it. Your terms have become the foundation for a new model of interstellar civilization, one based on voluntary cooperation rather than forced compliance. As Elena looked up at the sky where dozens of species were gathering to explore new possibilities for cooperation, she realized that humanity's greatest victory hadn't been avoiding conquest. It had been showing the galaxy that there was a better way forward. The irony is perfect, she said to Zephyr as media crews captured the historic moment for broadcast across multiple star systems. You came expecting to find another species ready for integration, and instead you found a species that would teach you integration was the wrong approach entirely. Zephar's harmonics carried what Elena now recognized as a Velthani equivalent of laughter. Your species has a remarkable talent for transforming disadvantages into advantages. We thought your refusal to surrender was a weakness. Instead, it became the strength that reshaped interstellar civilization. Dr. Chen approached with final readings from the collaborative research projects. The preliminary results are extraordinary. When species work together while maintaining their unique perspectives, the innovation rate increases by factors we hadn't thought possible. The collective wasn't just failing to maximize the potential of integrated species, it was actively diminishing its own capacity for advancement. Elena nodded, understanding now why the voluntary exchanges had been so successful. Because real breakthroughs require the collision of different ways of thinking. Integration smoothed out those differences, making the collective more harmonious but less capable of genuine innovation. Marcus appeared with one final communication. Ambassador, I have a message from the Secretary General. The United Nations has voted unanimously to establish Earth as a permanent headquarters for the new Interstellar Partnership Council. Representatives from 67 species have requested formal diplomatic status. Elena felt the full weight of the transformation settling around her. We've gone from facing extinction to hosting the galaxy's diplomatic center in less than 4 months. Your species' greatest weakness became its greatest gift to galactic civilization, Zephar observed. Your inability to accept external authority, your insistence on inefficient independence, your refusal to optimize for compliance, these traits that made you unsuitable for integration made you perfect for pioneering cooperation. As the sun set over Central Park, Elena reflected on the journey that had brought them to this moment. Humanity had faced what seemed like certain conquest and had responded not with military might or technological innovation, but with a simple, revolutionary act of refusing to accept that their fate was determined by someone else's terms. The alien diplomats came to negotiate, she said quietly, watching Zephar's ship prepare for departure to begin implementing partnership protocols across the collective. But in the end, they left carrying human terms that will reshape the galaxy. Zephar's final harmonics carried warmth and something Elena had never expected to hear from a member of a conquering species: gratitude. Your terms have become the foundation of something unprecedented, a truly cooperative galactic civilization where difference is preserved rather than eliminated. Elena smiled as she watched the first interstellar diplomatic mission in human history prepare to transform the galaxy not through conquest, but through the radical idea that conscious beings were most valuable when they remained free to be themselves. The negotiation was over, but the real work was just beginning.